Vibe coding IDE software like Cursor or Windsurf can be a bit of a challenge if you're not familiar with the interface, but you do not have to be a coder to learn how to harness these tools powerfully. They can take you further than the no-code apps like Bolt, Lovable, Replit, V0, and overall they will give you more control. You won't run out of context limits and memory and go into death spirals like many of us have experienced. So I'm going to show you around Cursor AI here. It's very similar to Windsurf, so don't fret if you want to use Windsurf instead. You can see here we have our opening screen. I don't really use connect via SSH. That's probably for more advanced users. You're going to use open and clone repo more than anything. Clone repo, you just click, and literally if you're connected with GitHub, you can click that and it'll show you the repos inside your GitHub account, or you can paste the URL to your GitHub account, or you just paste the repo URL to any GitHub, any public GitHub repo, and you will clone it right into your computer, which you can then open and in the future open just like any other folder. Just open project and it will show you all the files there, which we'll do in just a moment. But first I just want to show you around. Up here is where you can toggle the sidebars, the terminal. So this one on the left is going to show where all your files are. This one down below is going to be the terminal, and this one over on the side is going to be your AI agent, where you can choose which model you want to use. I always use Claude 4 Sonnet, but sometimes if I'm working on a big task, I might use Opus, which is not here right now. So let's make sure it's enabled. I'm going to click this settings icon over here and go here into models. Now I want to make some more space, so I'm going to close these toggles. Here you can see which models are available to you. So I got Claude 4 Sonnet, Claude 4 Opus I want to enable. You can see there's DeepSeek, there's Grok, there's GPT. I use Gemini Pro once in a while. I use GPT 4.0 only when I'm really having issues with Claude and it can't figure something out. That's my personal preference. I like the personality. I like the flexibility. So while we're in the settings, that's models. If you go over here to general, you'll see just like the basic settings. Word wrap is kind of a big one I recommend turning on. This is down here with word wrap. So lines, I'll turn that on. So you don't have to do it manually. And we'll take a look at that in just a few minutes here. And there's just general settings. There's cursor settings. This is all pretty advanced. You're probably not going to need any of that really until you're very comfortable with cursor. But if we go back to our general settings, we'll just see that there's privacy mode, which you can choose to opt in or out of. And there's these features. So the main features I would say are important if you want to get functionality like Bolt, Lovable, Replit, V0 is you want to enable auto run mode. You're allowing the agent to run tools on your behalf, such as executing commands and writing to files. This is what you're going to want your well-prompted, well-trained AI to do for you while you're vibe coding. So this is an extremely important command to save a lot of time. And it will also save you some headaches as far as debugging, which is inevitably a part of any vibe coding build. We've already looked at models. Now, rules. This is a very, very, very important one. This is basically a system prompt. The system prompt that before your AI agent over here in the right pane, before it does anything, this system prompt, this user rule is going to go through its head, so to speak, and be like, hey, this is how you respond. So you can get this prompt. There's a link below. You pop in your email and it'll send you right to the terminal navigation toolkit. If you already have the link to that, then you can just find it there. This is an extremely important prompt. I've kind of modified what you're going to get in the terminal navigation toolkit, but overall, the general vibe of this prompt is that you're a multi-agent system coordinator, that you play two main roles, planner and executor. Okay, I can't stress this enough. This is the most important part of setting up Cursor to vibe code, in my opinion. You want to make sure that your agent is either planning or executing. If it's only executing, there's a strong chance when things get complicated or tough, it will destroy your code and you'll get into death loops, and it really sucks. And I don't wish that on anyone. So make sure you've got a prompt like this that says, hey, be planner or executor, because the next steps that always will need to be taken will be decided based on the state of a scratchpad file that the planner and the executor will write into. So when I say you are a strategic development planner, right? We're saying planner mode. We are going to build a directory that's powered by RSS feeds, which are scraped and processed by an N8N workflow. We're not going to build that in this video, but it is something I want to build, so I might just get started here as far as the tutorial goes. You can subscribe to my channel so you can see what that looks like. Then it's going to act as the planner mode, and it's going to follow the planner's roles, responsibilities, perform high-level analysis, break down tasks, define success criteria, etc. And it will revise the scratchpad to make a plan. It'll make a checklist. We'll show you that in a minute. And then there's executor mode. The executor executes the tasks inside the plan. Genius, right? And then it just keeps going, and it makes everything explicitly clear. Props and shout out to whoever created this prompt. I'm sure an AI helped them, but I got this off of Twitter or something, and I really wish I would have bookmarked it because it's really an awesome prompt. And you'll see one last bit to take a look at is when a new request is made by us, when the user, us, prompts the agent here, the user will ask to invoke one of the two modes, planner or executor, but if we don't specify, please ask. But I said, if I'm showing you an error and I don't specify, assume I want you to use executor mode. Because 9 times out of 10, there is that one extra time, but 9 times out of 10, it's a quick error that the AI agent can fix easily. But if it is a more complex error, I'll say, hey, planner mode, let's fix this. Tell me how you're going to do it, especially when things to do with like databases, Supabase, etc. Okay, so that's our user rule. And you can get more complicated with that, but just for basic vibe coding, that's fine. But then you also have project rules, which once again, we're not going to do it here. This system prompt is enough, but if for a specific special project, you might want to give it other rules. This is the MCP section, okay? The MPC servers help you. They are tools that your AI can connect to and use. So for example, if there's a YouTube video that I want us to follow, like a tutorial with YouTube transcript, it will get the transcript. So I could say, use the YouTube transcript MCP server to transcribe this video, and then I'll put, the URL. We will continue in planner mode and write out the steps to follow the tutorial in that video. Okay, so then it would use the transcript to make a plan. MCP servers are great. Now, I don't need the Blender thing here, but if you want to make a Blender scene, there's so many MCP servers out there. I recommend checking out playbooks. No, I'm not associated with them, but it's a really cool directory that's more or less AI powered. And basically it scrapes all these MCP servers from GitHub and it puts the installation on how to do it and everything you need to use the MCP server. So it's actually really cool. One I really like is crawl for AI. And you can see the crawl for AI RAG agent MCP server for retrieval augmented generation. It will crawl documentation websites or anything you need to use as a resource for your agent. Really cool. And then there's other ones in here. Web scraping. That's the crawl for AI I have set up. So then when I'm in Cursor, I could say scrape the documentation at this URL, use crawl for AI MCP, and it will do that. So why don't we do that real quick? So let's save that there. You've seen that. We're going to use that in just a minute. I'll show you how that works. Indexing, basically that indexes any content, all the code you have inside your project, so it can reference it faster. And then these are beta features. So we're done with the settings. Let's create a brand new project here. And I'm going to do that by clicking open project and just creating a new folder. So I've created a folder called cursor demo. We'll just open that up here and you'll see we have nothing. Okay. Over here, we have a plugin. I don't use Klein. We're going to see all our files here soon, but we don't have any files yet. So I'm going to just create a file that just says readme.md markdown. .md means markdown. Markdown is a specific formatting like HTML where one $, one hashtag means H1. This means H2. This means H3. This means horizontal line. This means bold, italic, something like that. You can look that up, but that's what Markdown is. And LLMs love to work with Markdown, so it's called for AI. So let's start by scraping something fun. I'm going to choose Claude 4 Sonnet because I don't need max mode. What can we scrape? Let's scrape playbooks, okay? Let's just scrape the first page, right? So I'm going to copy that. We're going to say use crawl for AI to scrape 10 resources from playbooks.com/MCP. Create a new directory with each resource its own markdown file within. Okay, so we're giving it a nice simple prompt, something it to do. We're giving it an MCP server to play with. We're using the agent. We're not asking. We don't need manual. We're using the agent so it does things. We're in a brand new chat, so the context is fresh, and we've chosen our model. Let's continue. Now you can see it's checking for our scratchpad, but it doesn't exist. It couldn't find it. So it's going to create the scratchpad file, and we're going to see it pop up over here in just a moment. And right now, as it should be, our agent is operating in planner mode, not executor. So it's creating a plan. So here in the .cursor directory, there's our scratchpad. And see how it opens up in here? We can toggle the README, go over here. That is how an IDE, which means Integrated Development Environment, that's how this software works. Windsurf, Visual Studio Code, Cursor, this is it. You can edit the file in here. You can select the file over here. And in the case of Cursor and these AI-powered IDEs, you have an AI agent over here that will just do anything for you. So here you can see this is all green, which means it was added by our agent. And we can choose whether we want to accept it or not. I could click that green button. I could do Apple Y, or I could just click accept, and it will scroll through each file. Or I can click this accept. So there's lots of ways to accept the changes, but basically this way would be doing it change by change. So if it makes small changes, it would show more of these red and green buttons. This is more like accept the whole document, and this is accept everything. Everything. So let's accept this document. You can see how it's not green anymore because that's the file, and it's made a plan. So the user wants to scrape 10 resources from here. We need to use crawl for AI. Identify and extract 10 relevant resources, create appropriate directory structure, and then it breaks down the tasks we need to do. It needs to scrape the main page to understand the structure. It needs to create the directory over here to put the files that we scraped. It needs to convert to markdown format. So what sounds like a simple task actually is multiple tasks. And it even makes a status board, which the executor will start making check marks in. So the next action is to continue. Over here, we'll see our agent said planner mode complete. I've analyzed your requests. I've created a comprehensive plan to scrape 10 resources. Here's what I've planned. Okay, and so it gives us the 5 steps. Would you like to proceed in executor mode, or do you want to change the plan? We want to proceed. So I'll just say continue as executor. Now we can watch the black magic happen. And so it called the MCP tool, scrape web page successfully, scrape the main page. It can see that there's over 4,695 servers available, the resources. So now it's proceeding to task 2, and it's calling the MCP. It looks like it's already scraping the 10 resources. It's just going for the gold here. And I'm hoping you can start to see what's possible with the right MCP tools, with a development environment like Cursor. We'll start building something in just a minute, so we'll get a bit of a better knack here. This is just an intro video that I hope inspires you, because the world is your oyster when you're using these tools. And the real challenge here is your communication. I call this conversation-driven coding. We have to communicate simply, succinctly, but we have to be detailed. We have to include as much detail as possible about what we want, what results we're looking for, and what the constraints are of what we want or don't want the AI to do as it's building for us. And sometimes we don't even know that, and that's how we learn. That's why you won't just vibe code one project. Once you're vibe coding, you're going to vibe code forever, probably. I mean, I don't see how this ever gets old. You can just build anything you want, and you just get better, and you realize that you can build bigger and better things, and you can just go on forever here. So let's get back in here. It's scraped 10 resources already, and now it's processing these into Markdown. So if we look over here, it's made these files under the MCP resources directory. Awesome, huh? Google Maps MCP. Once again, this is all green. I can just click accept. I can also click these little arrows and it brings me to the other files that have been created for me to accept, or I just click that over there when it's all done. Google Maps MCP server. The provider is Anthropic, and it's just got everything on there. Now, I'm sure that was an easy site to scrape because it was made with AI and it's very clean. It's a very awesome website. Shout out to the creator of Playbooks. I apologize. I forget your name. We're going to see we have all of these files coming up over here. We'll save them and we're going to cut back to when these are done. All right. So we've got our 10 resources here scraped just by cursor here. Incredible. Imagine if that was useful for something like your directory. Now we see it also updated the Scratchpad. Project completed successfully. And if we close this, it'll tell us everything that happened and what it scraped and basically say we're good to go. So next step, now that that is good to go and we have some data, let's create a directory, right? So I'll click new chat. Very important to always start a new chat. Okay, especially when it's a new task. If it's the same task, if we're going to keep scraping or if there was an error, we would stay in the old conversation. But we're starting something new now. So next up, let's do something fun. Let's just say, let's build a directory from the data in. Now, see this add context button? When we click that, we can choose anything in our project, right? We want to choose this MCP resources folder. Now I can click it there and it'll show up. Or I can drag it. I can drag it over there and it uses it. You can see that shows up there. Let's build a directory from the data and MCP resources. Now this is kind of funny because it already was a directory, but we're just having some fun here. Let's build a directory. We'll just say use Next.js. I would normally use Astro, better SEO infrastructure, but let's just use Next.js because it will be faster. With Tailwind CSS. Now you normally don't need to say this, but you can. Let's make a plan and continue accordingly. Now at this point, if you want to upload a screenshot of a site you like, here's an old directory of mine. There's Montessori Find. Let's just copy that style. I'll upload that screenshot. For the design, follow the colors and style from the attached screenshot. So we're going to build a directory with Next.js. We're going to use that data. And this will be a good little exercise activity for vibe coding in Cursor. So now because we started a new conversation, it's looking at the context. It's basically starting over. It's looking at the Scratchpad. It's seeing what's already been done. And it's building up its context, its brain. Because when you start a new conversation, it starts over. So that Scratchpad helps these AIs to stay on top of what we're building so you don't get into that death spiral. And you can see it examined the resource files to understand the data structure. It understands the structure and requirements. It sees the screenshot and is creating a plan in Scratchpad here. Now, if you ever want it to be faster, go into max mode, but it will cost a bit more money. Here we go. Now you can see where there's a reject and accept for multiple sections. So we're changing everything now because it's a new project. So it's essentially starting over. I'll click accept for that one. So now we're not using crawl for AI anymore. We're looking for design consistency, data structure, navigation, etc. Accept, and we'll just accept all of that. Okay, and it's got the plan here. And we'll just say yes, let's continue. Now we didn't specify what we're going to do for the database, and it looks like it's going to use PostgreSQL. We could say right here, for the database, we want to use Supabase. So it'll create a schema for that. Let's just leave it as it is for now because it's just going to complicate things to add Supabase. But if you know the backend stack you want to use, I mean, the database part is very important. I want to say all this now. And in another video, I believe I show you how you can go into Claude or ChatGPT and create a product requirements document. This is very important when you want to build a big project with lots of features, specifications. Once again, not the purpose of this video, but make a product requirements document. It will save you so much hassle. Continue. Now, this is auto run mode. So it can run commands inside the terminal. I do need to watch this. See right here, OK to proceeds. It needs me to press Y. What do I like? Turbo Pack? No. You generally don't want to press skip unless it feels kind of frozen. What you could do is click move to background if nothing seems to be moving forward. Right now it's loading, so it's good. But when it seems to be kind of jammed or there's a problem, when you click move to background, it will bring your terminal down here. And then you can take a look at it, and then it'll also move forward over here with the agent. Now, if we come across that situation, I'll do that for you in real time. But that move to background button could come in handy, just letting you know. Now it's going into phase 2. Okay, now we're moving into phase 3, and we can see how in the scratch pad, it's putting little X's in there, right? Exciting. So this way you can just keep tabs on what your AI agent is doing while you zone out and do something else. Or just look at Instagram like me. My social media time has gone up since starting to vibe code because there's just lots of waiting like this. Now it's creating the home page, inspired by my old directory. You can see here there's a lot of files that have been modified. You can see how many changes are in there. This check mark means we've already accepted the changes. And there's more now. And then the dot means there's some to check. Looks like it made this file. And then this, it looks like there's a bunch of things that took away, a bunch of things that added. This is the CSS file for the colors. It's made the design implementation. Phase 3 is complete. So I'm going to click accept all. You can see now our whole project directory is starting to fill up. We started with nothing. Phase 5. Yes, let's continue. And after this, we will run the development server and we will take a look at it. And we will explore how to debug. Oh, I accidentally pressed stop. Let's go into phase 6. Let's see if this will run without any further input. So what I'm going to do now is do Apple J. Or you go up to the top window. You can't see it on my screen share here, but you go to terminal, new terminal. And here I am. So I'll write npm install. Now, what does npm install do? That installs all the dependencies from the Node Package Manager. And those dependencies are going to be found here in the package.json file. Don't worry too much about understanding it. The main thing is it's one of the few commands you're going to need to ever do. Check out the AI Captain's command line bootcamp. There's a line below. It'll help you get familiar with the command line terminal. It'll help you learn the basic things you're going to need to know, such as npm commands or GitHub, or just basic navigation in the terminal window. It's like texting your computer. So check out the link below. So we have a problem here, and that's good because it's going to show us how we can start using the cursor agent to debug. So I'm going to start a new conversation here. I might come back here if we need the polish and optimization, but for now, let's just take it away. I'm going to copy this whole thing from npm install, which I wrote, all the way down to all these errors. I highlight it, and you can click this add to chat, which is Apple or Control L, and look what it does. It adds that as context to our chat. Isn't that awesome? So we say npm install isn't working. And now our agent will take care of everything it needs to make it work. So I think I see the problem already. We're in the wrong directory. So what happened was the actual project is here in the MCP directory. It's not in our cursor demo folder. So what I need to do, I need to change directory, which is cd and space, and I type in mcp-directory. Okay, boom. Now we're in the right folder. npm install, done, with 0 vulnerability. So let's open up a new chat here. We might not even need that right now. npm run dev. Now that's saying we want to run the development server, basically. npm node package manager, run the development server. There it is. It's running on localhost port 3001. I command or control click it, and I open it, and we've got some errors. So I can click here in this Next.js development tab, and I can just copy the errors. I'll just copy the error there, and I'm going to paste it in here. We don't need package.json. And I could just say I'm getting this error when loading localhost 301. Or I could just send it. It's probably going to be the same either way. Normally is, in my experience. It's proceeding in executor mode because in my global rule that we talked about earlier, I say if I just show you an error, continue in executor mode. This isn't a huge error. I think it'll be a quick fix, so I don't need a big plan for it. Don't want to waste any more time than we already will with all these plans. So it's fixing this React component, the server card, it looks like. And we can see what's going on over here. If I make the terminal bigger, you can see how from when we ran npm run dev, it started here. And then it's just telling us what's going on. Oh, there's that same error. Okay, and this is the same error it's fixing now. So that error was showing on the front end and here in the back end. So in the future, you don't even have to copy the error from the actual site. You could really just paste it from here. All right, so now we have 3002 and 3003 going on. It's going wild with running all these servers, but it's just checking to see if there are any errors. This is where that move to background comes in handy. So now it's updating the scratch pad. I have a bunch of extra tabs open now with running the local host, the development server, and I don't really want all those running because it's going to use extra memory and it's just not really necessary. So here we've got 2 going on. I'll delete that one. Now we're here back at 3001. We'll refresh this and let's start from the top. npm install, which you could just say I, like I did there. npm run dev. Let's refresh this. And now it looks like we're going, but it's not getting the CSS. So I'm going to show you the different ways to debug now. We already looked at this way where you can just click that, copy the error, and paste it in. What we're going to do now, oh, we can't because it's not showing up there. All right, so we're going to copy that. I'm going to press enter, shift enter twice. This is kind of the same error almost. And what's the third error? Okay, copying, pasting all those in there. That is essentially the main way. Like I said, sometimes you should see things in here, and that you could just do the controller Apple L to send to the cursor prompt, but sometimes it doesn't show up and you get it here. Other times, nothing will show up at all, and we need to inspect and go over here to the console. And now it's going to show us everything the browser is struggling with to render inside of our React Next.js app. So back to cursor, and it's taken care of what it can. We'll move that to the background. Now I put it in post 3002. It'll start at 3000. I go to 3001, 3002, just because you have more of them being run. It's not a big deal. I like to stay organized, so I try to just have one going at a time. But now you're going to see 3001 doesn't have anything because it's not running there. So I got to go to 3002. I've got the console open so you can see how there's no actual issues here. We just don't have any CSS to speak of. It looks like there's stuff here. All right. So now is when we probably have to do phase 6, because that was probably what polish and optimization was. So now I'll introduce you to the show chat history button. And here you can see all the chats we've had. Now, sometimes these will disappear because I guess cursor change, clears the cache. But what we want to do here is go to this, build a directory with Next.js. And that's where it had started phase 6. So here we're just going to say continue with phase 6. And that's good because we've troubleshooted some basic errors already. A lot of times we keep building, and we don't actually see that there were some errors that may or may not be fundamental that it needs to fix, and it might have to fix a bunch of other stuff. So you kind of want to run, okay, look, we got 500 errors. But yeah, you kind of want to run the development server and see what's going on your browser as soon as possible, as soon as there's something to see, which I think we did a good job here. But after phase 6 is probably when you would generally want to start looking at it before you implement a new feature like user membership logins or search or map embeds or whatever that might be. And you can see here it even created a robots file with a sitemap in there, MCP find. That's funny. So it's smart here. And there's the sitemap file to generate a sitemap, better SEO, which is funny because we're using Next.js, which isn't optimal. Recommend Astro. And now it sounds like phase 6 is done, and we're running in several different windows here. But let's check out this one at 3001. And we're still not seeing any CSS. If we inspect and go to the console, nothing really there. All right. So it thinks it's ready for production, but it's not true. So I'm going to stay in the same conversation, and I'm going to make a big screenshot. I'm going to put that in there and say, we are not ready for production. There's no CSS. And CSS means cascading style sheets. It's basically what gives the web colors. And it looks like it can't find the tailwind configuration. And tailwind is the CSS. That's the problem. The more you work with these projects, the better you'll understand how they work. And you'll start to be able to see what could be wrong. Not for crazy complex tasks, but for a lot of things you'll start to see. Or if you have Stripe API key variables or Supabase inside a .env file, and it's not reading the .m file, it's not going to be that hard to figure out. If you're just paying a little bit of attention, which you don't actually need to do if you don't want to. You just have to check back in here every few minutes to say, yes, continue in executor mode. Okay, boom. MCP find 9 listings. So we basically just copied another directory into our own, which I don't recommend doing, generally speaking. All right. Hey, create the individual page. Oh, it looks like it already did that. This is clean. It's looking good. Do you want GitHub? Wow. All right. So that is an introduction to Cursor AI, how to vibe code, how to debug a little bit, how to make a plan, how to enter in the right settings, get it ready on your computer. Check out the terminal navigation toolkit below. You won't regret it. It's got that prompt for the planner and executor. And yeah, subscribe if you want to keep learning about vibe coding and building with AI. See you soon.